Welcome and good evening to We Build on DeFiChain. Today with the third episode of Jellyverse. I'm really looking forward to what Santiago will explain today. But before we start with the topic and the content, please give us a like, subscribe to the channel and press the bell button so you will not miss any shows in future. If you have any questions, you can raise them here in the chat if you're watching live, or put it later on in the comments of this video. And with this, I would say welcome Santiago back on stage, really looking to the third episode of Jellyverse. How are you?
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks for the invitation again. Thanks actually for the patience. I mean, third episode now.
Yeah.
I hope there's more coming, but I hope also that the listeners still have very curiosity around Jellyverse, and I think we have an exciting topic today. So yeah, really curious to dive into it.
Yeah, pretty sure the watchers and listeners will wait for what you are presenting, because you're not talking about the same thing. We said today is jelly bonds. I have, honestly speaking, no clue what you are planning in the background. So for me, it's really curious what you are presenting. Yeah, and I think the rest of the community is also waiting for what you are building in the background. Yeah, it's more or less the first insights. Nothing is currently available on testnet, so you are in the background working. Yeah, I would say we should dig a little bit deeper in your content. Should I
Sounds great.
switch to the presentation?
Yes, we can start.
Okay, here we are. Let's go.
All right. So, yeah, as we covered in the first two episodes, we introduced Jellyverse, and maybe here again the overview slide that you also find in the other videos. Jellyverse contains out of the Jelly token, its governance and utility token. Then in the first episode, we covered Jelly Swap. In the second, we covered the Jelly US dollar, the JUSD. And today we want to talk about Jelly Bond. In, I guess, all of the videos, I always mentioned that we also have Jelly Stake as a staking platform where you can stake Jelly. But yeah, in our video series, we focused on the three big protocols. And today we are going to have a close look into Jelly Bond. Again, Jellybond is going to be the most complex protocols from all of them, and maybe also a bit abstract to understand. Feel free to interrupt me, DZ, if you have any
Mhm.
questions, or we should explain something a bit more depth. But maybe we start very, very easy with the vision of Jellybond. Jellybond has two goals. The first goal is to have a gamified trading experience for the users using the protocol for trading. So we highlighted the real yield opportunity here because you will have a clear counterparty if you're using the protocol. So there's like people who are trading, and the more efficient they trade, the more gains they can realize. And other people who maybe don't trade as efficient, they could get into a loss situation. So you have a closed system, you have winners and losers, and all of this with a very gamified trading experience. And then you have protocol on liquidity, which is gathered through this whole protocol for the stability pool of the stablecoin and also for the pools inside of JellySwap. So that's kind of like where Jellybond is trying to aim into. So the first aspect, having this gamified trading experience and having some nice use case for the users. And the second part is being something very, very valuable inside the whole Jellyverse and yeah, pushing the liquidity forward. So with that being said, we have here some examples and I'm going to guide you through. Everything is here in the graphics mentioned with DFI because our first idea was to do this with DFI. For now, we decided to start with JUSD first. We maybe introduce it for DFI as well. But for DFI, it's a bit more tricky because you need to find a way to yeah, use staking as an underlying yield source here without centralizing it. So that's a bit tricky. We're going to start with JUSD, but yeah, for the explanation graphs, we have here DFI and the images. So at a glance, it's pretty simple. You use your, and we're gonna go with DFI here as an example. You use your DFI, for example, and you send them to the protocol, and what you receive is a bond. This bond is basically an NFT that represents what you have sent to the protocol. And then you can decide as a user whether you want to trade in after waiting a certain period and obtaining a specific amount of boosted DFI, which is basically a derivative token backed with DFI. Or you can also at any point decide that you want to trade out. So you say, you know what, I wanted to make this trade, but I changed my mind. I just want to have my principal DFI again, and you get your full amount of DFI back without any loss, if you don't want to participate anymore. And what is actually happening, if we repeat this one more time, you send your DFI to the protocol, you receive your bond, which is basically an NFT, representing all those values. You wait a specific amount of time where you already accrue a virtual balance of boosted DFI, meaning that you can check every day. You can check like, okay, if I redeem today, I get 10 boosted DFI. If I redeem tomorrow, I get 11. If I wait a week, I get maybe 100, so on and so on. And after a certain period of time, I can say I'm going to make this trade in. So I send my NFT back to the protocol. The NFT gets destroyed, gets burned, and I receive my boosted DFI.
Okay. Question: this boosted DFI is always increasing over time.
Yeah, so the balance of boosted DFI is increasing over time, but it has a cap. And also the velocity of the increase is slowing down. So yeah, there's like an efficient point in time where you want to actually trade in to get your boosted DFI out of this, instead of waiting longer and like reducing the velocity of accruing more boosted DFI. So it would be more efficient to close the position and reopen.
Okay.
And what might be a bit abstract, and I think the most trickiest thing to understand is, why should you want to have boosted DFI in the first place? In the scenario of DFI, the underlying yield source in all of this would be staking. For JUSD, the underlying yield source is going to be the stability pool, which earns from liquidations and also earns block rewards. And the idea is that the user, which is basically bonding its DFI or JUSD or any other yield-bearing token, this could also be a liquidity token from a DEX, is basically giving up the opportunity to own or to farm yield with his token, and therefore gives this utility to the protocol itself. So the protocol then earns this rewards. And with this being in place, plus the time component, the trading component, boosted DFI will trade a slight premium compared to DFI, which makes the whole endeavor interesting. So once you have boosted DFI, you can sell them at a slight premium compared to your DFI and start everything all over. And this has like a pretty nice amplified mechanism where you're incentivized to do this trade over and over again. Maybe as a quick example how this could look like, you throw in 100 DFI, you bond this, you could wait 20 days or 30 days or maybe 40 days, and then you get a different amount of boosted DFI back. If you claim very early, you always have the opportunity to sell the boosted DFI or to maybe use it in a pool or to do something else with it. If you wait longer, you obviously get more. And then the magic that is actually happening behind the protocol is like the way it works with the DFI that the people deposited in the first place. So the most interesting part is actually the reserve bucket, the so-called reserve bucket, and the permanent bucket. So you see here in the example, Daniel, if we go with the period, the time period, pretty long, 40 days, then for the 95 boosted DFI that we give to the user as new, fresh new currency, we're going to deposit 95 DFI in the reserve bucket to back up this supply. So every single boosted DFI that is minted is also backed by one DFI. And the surplus is then put in the permanent bucket, which then is owned by the protocol itself, and then increases the so-called protocol owned liquidity, which I could explain a bit more depth. How is it used and what is the strong benefit out of this? And therefore, you can always assure that a boosted DFI is always at least worth one DFI, plus the premium that comes out of the trading and out of the yield that the protocol is generating itself. So maybe for now, any questions from your side, or should I repeat something, or was it clear?
The way from DFI to the boosted DFI is clear, yeah. But I think not really clear is if I have now the boosted DFI, how did I get back my investment and in which way?
Correct. So there's two ways. You can sell boosted DFI,
Mm-hmm.
assuming that there's a premium on the asset. So let's assume DFI is worth $1 and boosted DFI is worth $1.10. Then you would
Yeah.
just sell it on the open market. There's going to be a pool, boosted DFI, DFI.
Mm-hmm.
Or in our case, JUSD, boosted JUSD. Um, if you would come in a scenario where this token would trade as a discount, so the premium situation may not occur for whatever reason, you could always redeem it for one DFI back.
So this one by one is in the protocol.
Correct. So on this slide, you see it here on the right side. This is a question, what would happen if a boosted DFI trades below DFI, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
then I can always redeem against this reserve bucket. And this reserve bucket is like a virtual bucket in the smart contract that always stores enough DFI to protect and guarantee this one-to-one conversion.
Mm-hmm. Okay, clear.
Correct. So again, the magic then happens while the user deposited his DFI or JUSD or any other liquidity token or any token that has a yield source where you can, where you don't maybe have like strong movements or any kind of ratio changings. So for example, depositing a token and then having it in the background in a liquidity pool is not a good idea because then you cannot guarantee that you always have enough supply of this token to redeem it, right? But if you have a token that has its natural yield source, like staking or like a stability pool,
Mm-hmm.
then it's pretty easy. It works very, very good. And then the protocol on protocol level can use this currency to generate yield. For DeFi, it would be staking. For JUSD, it would be the stability pool. And for liquidity tokens, they get just rewards by themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So maybe the whole idea again explain if we go back to the first slide where I was trying to explain the vision of Jellybond. The first aspect again is this trading experience, and what will be very interesting is actually this specific point here, the whole NFT characters. So those are dynamic NFTs, they change over time. So if you accrue more balance of your boosted tokens, this NFT also gets more interesting. And there might be also a secondary market for the NFTs itself. So there might be people who never sell or like redeem,
Mm-hmm.
but they can, since the NFT is worth the amount of boosted tokens, attach a market value to this NFT, right? And this NFT maybe looks very special or has like a very interesting design or like a role inside of Jellyverse. So it might be interesting to keep the NFT and never redeem it. So this is all when it comes to the gamified experience, right? There might be people who trade this perfectly. They know exactly when to trade in, trade out, and use this premium for arbitrage trading and get some profit out of this. But the magic behind here is for the liquidity on the stability pool. If you remember, Daniel, we discussed this. The stability
Yeah.
pool for the stablecoin is super important because in this stability pool, as a short reminder for the viewers, we gather amount of JUSD, right? We try to collect as much from the stablecoin as possible to have a stable pool that buys back liquidations. So it stabilizes the whole stablecoin. And Jellybond here can attract more liquidity into this pool because the protocol itself uses this stability pool.
Mm-hmm.
And also, we can use part here of the permanent bucket, any amounts of permanent tokens allocated, collected. We can use them in the system however we want. Obviously, this needs to be predetermined, so we cannot just come up with for whatever we want to use it. But imagine you use DFI, then you could put it in the DFI DUSD pool or remove it.
Mm-hmm.
Or imagine you use it for JUSD, then you can put it into a JUSD, DUSDC, DUSDT pool and increase the liquidity in such a pool. And since this is protocol on liquidity, you really store this liquidity forever on the DEX and you can really push the volumes forward. So other people can, for example, swap millions or really big amounts inside those pools, and they have low slippage.
Okay.
So that's kind of like what it tries to do.
Maybe another question from a user perspective. Why should I invest in the Jellybond instead of stake DFI directly, or can I go directly to the stability pool? So what is the advantage for me as a user?
Correct. So first of all, there might be ways to earn a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
As again, we have those components in all of this, like the NFTs, which are
Okay.
um, random, right? So that you could drop an NFT which is randomized and worth way more. But also as a user, the earlier you are in this bucket inside, and the earlier you are getting your own amount of boosted DFI in this example, the more you profit from all the other people who will use this protocol as well in future, because the whole yield that is generated inside the protocol, right, will be reflected in the premium of the asset
Mm-hmm.
itself. So if you get your hands on boosted DFI or any boosted token early, and then a lot of people come in and also use this opportunity, then you profit from their yield as well. So that's kind of like this amplified mechanism, which makes it attractive. Of course, premium can also reduce if people try to trade this out very, very perfectly and efficiently. If people are not really interested in the NFTs, if this becomes maybe not super interesting, then the premium slows down, and the potential win also as well.
Okay. Good. Really hard to understand it in this theoretical way and not play with it. I think if the code is running and you can interact with the smart contracts, it's a little bit easier to understand what's really happening. In this way, it sounds a little bit abstract because it's a new thing. We are not familiar with it. The rest you explained in the episodes before, we are used to. A DEX is a DEX. Okay, it's a different one, but it's a very similar mechanism behind. Also with JUSD here, it's a new thing. I have to think about it, honestly speaking.
Correct.
It's pretty new.
Yeah, I totally get that. I mean, it's a very abstract protocol, but it works very good. And again, this is inspired by the Chicken Bonds protocol from the
Mm-hmm.
Liquidity team. And they came up with this protocol especially to target the problem that the LUSD stablecoin might trade at a premium, right? Between the ratio of $1 and $1.10.
Mm-hmm.
So what it does is then, if you have this protocol and liquidity of the stablecoin itself, and you pool it, you're basically increasing the supply of
Mm-hmm.
the stablecoin on the DEX. So you bring down the price a little bit. And this worked pretty good, and also the price premium developed pretty good on the protocol, the Chicken Bonds protocol. So if you're super curious to dive into it, you could check the Chicken Bonds protocol right now to learn a bit more how it works. But for us, it will work as also a bit different, right? You're gonna have more tokens than only JUSD on the long run, and yeah, also have a different way how we use the NFTs.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right. Yeah, as I said, this is really, really also a challenge for me to explain that one. I hope it was somehow understandable, and hope when it's released and programmed, we can maybe have a more hands-on and like
Mm.
practice experience to approach and explain it.
Okay. So base idea is to provide liquidity to the protocol. That is what I understood. It's a mechanism easy to handle as a user. You put in your token, you're getting back this boosted token, which you can sell or you can redeem later on. Over time, you're getting more of the boosted one. And yeah, the Jellybond algorithm uses the yield of the blockchain, in our case, or in your case, the stability pool, and provides you here some profit. That's more or less the
Correct.
idea. And this gamified trading is because of the NFTs. If you put in your token, you're getting an NFT as a kind of proof. Here, these are my investment, and yeah, then you have a kind of unique character, and not one of millions. It's just your investment. That's the idea.
Correct. And the NFTs are dynamic. So in terms of chicken bones, for example, they have like an egg that hatches over time, right? And then it's pretty easy to follow and see what's happening. And then when you have like the it fully hatched and grown up, then you get a lot of boosted token for it. And we will have similar metaphors to make it a bit easier for the user. And the two components are trading experience and like an opportunity to trade against each other as the users. And the second component is pushing the volumes forward. So it's really about getting this protocol on liquidity and increasing the liquidity inside the whole Jellyverse ecosystem without like the need to buy
Mhm.
liquidity from the outside, rent it. Yeah, it's just by the time the more people trade with the protocol, the more protocol and liquidity the protocol is going to collect.
Yeah, that's a really nice idea to use. Yeah, the coins from the users to provide liquidity in a very easy way. Um, yeah, I think we have to play with it and how it really works
Yeah,
then on a blockchain. Or if people are using it, how does the premium look like? How fast is the boosted token growing? How is this NFT really working? Um, uh, every single aspect is clear, but how it works together will be really interesting because it depends heavily on the users, how they use it really, and then how it plays out. Yeah, there are some unknown
absolutely.
variables because we are all humans, and yeah, that will be really great. Great. There was no question in the chat so far. I had a look on it. Um, really, really great. Thanks for giving us some insights. I'm pretty sure on Jellybond you have the most work to make some explanations, videos, tutorials, whatever, when the protocol is live, because it's new. Yeah, it's not kind of um, development of existing code. It's kind of new feature. And like at the beginning of our DEX and liquidity mining, the question was, what is liquidity mining? How does it work? What is impermanent loss? These are questions you always have at the beginning. Here you have also the questions. How does the yield look like? How does it play out over time? How does it work to redeem it? Whatever. And yeah, these questions must be answered by using, I think, because otherwise it's really, really hard on this theoretical way.
Yeah, I agree. There might be users who never really use the bonding mechanism, right? They maybe just buy the booster token, they use it inside a
Mhm.
pool, and then yeah, they just like to profit indirectly from it. And there's like different ways, like on your experience, how you want to use the protocol.
Mhm.
Um, it's just I think for especially more DeFi nerds, let's call it like this, it's a very interesting
Mhm.
one. And yeah, for the ecosystem, it has positive benefits. But I agree. We're gonna do our best to educate people, and how we're gonna make this unique is through the tokens you can bond. So
Mhm.
cannot talk too much about this right now, but this will be very interesting.
Yeah. Now we have a question here from Ralph. You use a part of the deposited token to put it in liquidity pools. What happens if you are on an impermanent loss and have to pull out the token because people redeem the original token against the boosted ones? Was too long.
Correct,
Um,
correct. So here, this is exactly the point where I said you cannot use any liquidity pool or token. So what you use is you use, for example, DeFi only in staking, so you don't have
mm,
any impermanent loss or ratios changing. Even though staking is very tricky because you need to find a way to stake it decentralized in order to not
mhm.
centralize the protocol. So with JUSD, it works like a charm because you can use the stability pool fully decentralized. Yeah, that way you have an underlying yield source or liquidity tokens and other tokens who have such a characteristic. You can use those.
Yeah. So um, you cannot go into a risk of losing some of the investment, yeah, which is the impermanent loss. You can only use tokens where you can get a yield without a risk of losing yeah, the initial investment, right?
Correct.
Mhm.
And Yeah, again, so the initial design is for a stable coin. So if you get to a point where JUSD in the stability pool maybe has like, let's say 3 to 8% yield, maybe like a bit
Hmm.
more, then you can get a bit more out with Jellybond. If you trade it accordingly, you can maybe do like 10, 15, 20% if you are very good on a sustainable base, right? But it's
Hmm.
not to be like the protocol that gives you like 100% APR on something. I mean, maybe in the beginning, but
Hmm.
definitely not on the long run.
Yeah. There was one general question from Dark Chicken. How are JD tokens distributed?
Yeah, so we're definitely gonna have more clear information out for this. So there will be a fair distribution between founders, investors, and the community itself. I also communicated this in one interview with Balthazar. And we are right now looking into how exactly we want to distribute
Hmm.
the pie for the community to the community, and there will be different ways. So classic ways, so you can imagine. But yeah, there's some legal constraint that we have right now that doesn't allow us to nail everything down because we're going through a legal opinion. So everything is going to be checked by authorities,
Hmm.
and yeah, we should not like say that we do A, and then maybe authorities say, "Ha, you should change that or this," and then we need to do B. So
Yeah.
yeah, give us a bit more time on that.
So you're still working in the background on the distribution. It depends a little bit on the legal aspect. You try your best to uh, have a fair distribution over the different entities, and yeah, pretty sure we will
Correct.
see it if it's fixed.
Correct. Yeah.
Great. These were the questions. Yeah, thanks, Balta, for Santiago for this show. Really abstract. I have to think about, honestly speaking. I'm still a little bit confused how this plays for me as a user, not in general. Yeah, the general idea is clear. But you know, everyone wants the best for him or herself, and how this plays out, I have to think, and we will see. Great.
I absolutely understand.
Then, thanks for joining. Pretty sure we will see more from Jellyverse in future if more details are available, fixed, something is going live on testnet, mainnet, whatever. Feel free to reach us out for a rebuild show or doing your AMA on Twitter. Yeah, they are also on a more or less regular base. Everyone interested in, follow Jellyverse on Twitter, then you will be informed what's happening there. You also have Telegram channels, YouTube channels, Reddit, so on all social media channels. Links are in the show notes. Yeah, right, I put it already there. So if you want to be informed, follow Jellyverse and stay up to date. Thanks for joining and giving us the insight, Santiago.
Thanks for the invitation, Daniel. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, have a great time out there. Bye bye.